Hey, Noah, do you know what today is? It's a special day.
Well, it's late April. Is it Earth Day?
No, but here's a hint. It rhymes with Earth Day, and it has something to do with the math club.
Oh, oh, I know. Is it Girth Day?
No, dude, wait, what's Girth Day?
I don't know. I was guessing maybe it's a holiday celebrating measuring the circumferences of things. You know, Girth Day.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing.
So what is it then?
Today just happens to be the math club's second birthday.
Oh, wow. 2 whole years already? That's awesome.
I know, right?
And to celebrate this festive occasion, can I tell you a math joke I just heard?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So a mathematician walks into a bar and orders a beer. Then, a minute later, a second mathematician walks in and orders half a beer.
Half a beer? Why?
Just wait. So then, a third mathematician walks in and orders 1/4 of a beer, followed by another who orders 1/8 of a beer.
Okay.
The bartender looks out the window and sees a long line with an infinite number of mathematicians, all set to come in one at a time and continue the pattern. So he reaches under the bar, grabs two.
Noah, Noah, hey, Noah, are you okay?
I'm back.
Back. You've been here talking with me this whole time, and I didn't see you go anywhere.
Of course. From your point of view, the show was never in any trouble to begin with. So you don't remember sending me back a year in time to fix it.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about. Last year, future you showed up on our first birthday, and we worked together to save the show.
Precisely. For me, that whole adventure was just a few minutes ago. And any listeners who'd like to hear it can check out the Math Club episode 26, Paradox City.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm sure we have new listeners who've never heard that special episode and would absolutely love it. But hey, let's get back to your joke. What's the punchline?
My joke?
Yeah, you were in the middle of telling me a math joke a minute ago.
Oh, well, now that I've returned from the past, I'm afraid I've replaced that version of me here in the present. It's a little complicated, but because I was in the past when we changed everything, I still have my original memories of that alternate timeline where the show was in trouble. But everyone else here remembers the new timeline like you do.
Okay, but what does all of this mean for the space time continuum?
It means I have no memory of what you and I were talking about a minute ago, so I can't finish that joke.
Well, that's okay. It gave me an idea anyway. To celebrate 2 years of the Math Club, why don't we put together a special episode all about math jokes? Maybe it'll jog your memory.
I don't think branching timelines work that way, but I still love the idea. Let's do it.
Shabba-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, oh yeah. Remember, life is a joke book, nothing but a joke book, even though the joke is on you. And if you start feeling low, there's only one way to go, only one thing you can do.
We've been mentioning this idea of doing a math jokes show for about a year now, haven't we, Pete?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I'm excited that we're finally getting a chance to do it.
Me too. Since you came up with the idea, do you want to tell our listeners a bit about what you had in mind?
Sure. Do you remember that old NPR show, A Prairie Home Companion?
Oh, yeah, totally. I loved that show. My favorite segment was probably News from Lake Wobegon.
Mine too. It was a great show. And I was thinking back, did you know they used to do an annual joke show?
I do remember that. I didn't listen to the show religiously, but I definitely remember hearing a joke show or two. I specifically recall a knock knock joke segment where they said "Canuck Canuck" at the beginning of every joke.
I remember that too. And so I was kind of reminiscing about those old joke shows, and I thought I'd look around online to see if I could find any of the old recordings.
Were you able to?
I was, and they totally brought me back. I found one episode in particular on YouTube from 2014 where Tim Russell told a funny math joke to Garrison Keillor.
Well, here's one I don't get. The physicist, a mathematician, and an engineer were each asked to establish the volume of a red rubber ball.
Yes.
The physicist immersed the ball in a beaker full of water and measured the volume of the displaced fluid.
Good.
The mathematician measured the diameter and calculated a triple integral.
Good.
The engineer looked it up in his red rubber ball volume table.
That's pretty funny.
I thought so too. And it made me wonder, maybe we could do a joke show episode of the Math Club where all the jokes are math jokes.
And can we?
Well, I guess we're about to find out. We reached out to our listeners and asked them to drop us a voicemail with their favorite math jokes. And we got a bunch of really good ones that we'll be sharing in a few moments. And what's more, I have a bunch of math jokes of my own that I'd love to share.
As do I. And I also arranged a special little surprise for a little later in the episode. But first, let's hear one of your math jokes.
Yeah. I saw my math teacher with a piece of graph paper yesterday.
What was he doing?
I think he was plotting something.
Oh, yeah? Well, one of my students came up to me today and said he got in a fight with 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9.
Oh, that's terrible. Who won?
I don't know, but the odds were against him.
Do you know why fingers are a mathematician's best friend?
Why?
They can always be counted on.
This next joke came to us from Dan Finkel from Math for Love.
Hey guys, this is Dan with a math joke. There's a math professor on an airplane, and over the intercom, there's a call. They say, is there a doctor anywhere on the plane? We're having an emergency. He raises his hand. One of the flight attendants comes over. He says, well, I'm a doctor of mathematics. And they say, well, we've got one passenger having a heart attack on the plane, and we've got another who we believe is having a stroke. And he says, okay, well, that's two. All right, that's it. Have a good show.
Now, that was pretty funny. I should call those fellers up and share my joke with the Math Club.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that is imaginary. Please hang up and rotate your phone 90 degrees before dialing again.
Oh, shucks. Pete, my dog is great at math. I asked him, what's 2 minus 2?
And
He said nothing.
you think your dog is so smart? I have a hen that can count her own eggs.
You don't say?
Yep, she's a real mathematician.
Why did the chicken cross the Mobius strip?
I don't know why.
To get to the same side.
Hi there, this is TJ from the All Learners Network. The Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round never interacted with each other. They ran in different circles.
How did the number feel when it lost 1/3 of itself?
Ooh, numb.
Hey, it's Batsheva from Overthrowing Education. And this is a conversation that I overheard at a wild math party. The algebra problem says, hey, baby, you're a cute angle. And the geometry problem answers, don't bother me, go find your ex. Ba-dum-bum.
The following joke is brought to you by Hypotenuse Airlines. Hypotenuse Airlines, the right angle on flying. A mathematician was on a short flight home after speaking at a conference. The trip was supposed to take an hour and a half, but this particular flight was being rocked by a turbulent storm the entire time. So about a half hour into the flight, there was a loud that rattled and shook the entire plane all over the place. The passengers all looked nervously at each other, and the pilot came over the PA.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of our engines was just struck by lightning and has gone out. But I want to assure you that there's nothing to worry about. We can still make it safely to Oakland with the other 3 engines. But instead of just 90 minutes, the flight is now going to take about 3 hours.
The mathematicians scowled about the inconvenience of doubling their flight time, but at least they were safe. Then, just a few minutes later, and the autopilot came on again.
Folks, it seems that we've lost a second engine. We're still okay, but the trip is now going to take us 6 hours.
At this point, the mathematician started getting visibly angry in his seat. This flight was taking way longer than it was supposed to. So they flew on for a few more minutes and then...
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry to inform you that we've lost a third engine, but I can assure you that we're still perfectly safe with the one remaining engine. However, the trip will now take 12 hours.
Well, that was it. The very last straw. The mathematician just totally lost it. He tore off his seatbelt, jumped to his feet, and shouted, "Good Lord! I sure hope we don't lose that fourth engine, or we're gonna be up here all day." You know, parallel lines have so much in common. It's really sad they'll never meet. We received this joke from Justin Bowler, a listener in Los Angeles.
What did the 0 say to the 8?
Nice belt. Okay, so a guy walks into a burger joint and shouts, "Give me 10 times the number of burgers everyone here is eating." The kid behind the counter replies, "That, my friend, is an order of magnitude." This next one is from Dr. Kimberly Ayers from Cal State University at San Marcos.
Hey, Math Club podcast. This is Kimberly Ayers coming at you with one of my favorite math jokes. So, a police officer pulls over Heisenberg and he asks Heisenberg, "Sir, do you have any idea how fast you were going?" And Heisenberg says, "Nope, but I know exactly where I am."
So these three statisticians go deer hunting with bows and arrows. They spot a big buck and take aim. One shoots and his arrow flies off 3 meters to the right. The second shoots and his arrow flies off 3 meters to the left. The third statistician jumps up and down yelling, "We got him! We got him!" We even got a joke from Howie Waugh. Howie Waugh? The Howie Waugh? Yep, the one and only. Listeners may have seen one of his many mathematical TikTok videos online. Howie's also a lecturer from the Department of Mathematics at Fresno State.
How many teachers does it take to do a subtraction problem? 1, because it only takes one teacher to make a difference.
Aww. Did you know wearing glasses makes you better at math? Really? How? They really help with division. The following joke is brought to you by Square Root Beer, the smoothest sarsaparilla this side of the Rio Grande. A posse of functions are unwinding at an old-timey saloon after a long day on the range. Suddenly, X squared bursts through the door in a state of panic. "Run, everybody, run! The derivatives are coming!" Well, chaos breaks out and the functions start shouting. Sine of X takes one look at cosine and starts screaming. "Oh my, the derivatives! I simply must take leave of this place." Functions scatter and go running in all directions, but one function remains completely calm, not bothered in the least. It's the exponential function, e to the x. Well, this is a mighty fine sarsaparilla. Cold and refreshing, too. Howdy there, partner. What can I do ya for? I see you sitting there cool as a cucumber. Ain't you afraid of me? I ain't afraid of you, derivative. I'm e to the x. Well, now, that's a shame, son, 'cause I'm d over dy.
Hey, Math Club. My name's Ed, and here's my favorite math joke. Why was Yoda afraid of 7? Because 6, 7, 8.
Okay, so I know this is a joke show, but would it be all right if I do a magic trick? Sure. Great. And I think the audience should play along too. So, are you ready? Yep, ready when you are. Okay,
So I want you to pick a number between 1 and 10, but don't tell me what it is.
All right, I've got one.
Next, add 5 to your number.
Okay.
Now, subtract the number you started with.
All right.
Are you thinking of the number 5?
Wow, Pete, how'd you do that?
Hey, a magician never reveals his secrets.
This next joke came to us from Dave Gillette, who you might hear a little bit later in the show.
How do you make sure you always stay nice and warm? You sit in the corner where it's always 90 degrees.
Oh man, I've got some really good graph theory jokes.
Great. We can put them right here in the joke show.
We could, but I think they're a little too edgy.
Did you hear about the statistician who put his head in the oven and his feet in the freezer? On average, he felt fine.
Hey, Noah, I've been thinking about rational numbers lately.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and there really is a fine line between a numerator and a denominator.
Only a fraction of our listeners are going to find that funny, Pete.
Here's Keenan Willis, a high school math teacher from the Bay Area.
A lot of people think they're bad at math. In fact, 5 out of 4 people say they're bad at fractions.
What does the B in Benoit B. Mandelbrot stand for?
I have no idea.
Benoit B. Mandelbrot.
Okay, so I got to tell you my all-time favorite math joke. I heard it during my first year of grad school and have loved it ever since.
We're all ears. Let's hear it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I learned the joke from an episode of The Late Show with Dave Letterman. It was a segment called Over Our Heads, and I managed to find a clip of it on the internet, so you can hear it straight from the source. It's told by a mathematician named Mike Roth.
We're doing this thing again where people from other walks of life tell us jokes. We call it Over Our Heads. This gentleman is from Harvard University. His name is Mike Roth. He's a mathematician. Mike, come on out here and tell us a joke that's over our heads.
Two professors are giving an oral exam to a student who's not very bright. One of the professors asks him, "Can you give an example of a compact topological space?" The student pauses and says, "The real numbers." There's a long, painful silence until the second professor asks, helpfully, "With what topology?"
Is that a joke? Is that really a joke? It was really a joke. Is it a good joke?
It's an okay joke.
Now, the first time you heard it, did you laugh?
Yeah, I did.
Really? Seriously?
Well, there aren't too many math jokes. You have to take it what you can get.
Okay. Nice job. Thank you very much. There he is. Mike Roth.
I don't know, Pete. I don't really get it.
Well, to be fair, Dave did say it would be over your head.
Hey there, Pete, Noah, and the rest of the math club. This is the world's funniest bear calling with a math joke for your show. Why did the grizzly and the panda enjoy solving equations together? Because they loved bear arithmetic. Funny. Waka, waka, waka. Love the podcast, guys. Keep up the great work.
Hey, I recognize that bear.
Yeah, I thought it would be fun to use some AI to have him contribute a joke to the show.
Oh, how'd you do that?
Do you remember our episode on AI and math called Math GPT?
Oh, yeah, sure. And you and your son used some AI tools to write our opening sketch and emulate our voices.
Right. Well, the process here was pretty much the same. We asked ChatGPT to write a math joke about bears, and then we used another AI voice cloning tool to simulate Fozzie's voice telling the joke.
Ah, neat. Well, it came out really well.
Thanks.
And now I'm wondering if Alexa knows any good math jokes, and if they're better than what ChatGPT came up with.
That's an interesting question. Why don't we put it to the test and ask Alexa and the other voice assistants we have around the math club to tell us some jokes?
All right, let's do it.
Okay. You're up first, Alexa. Tell us a math joke.
I tried to write a really mean joke, but it turned out average.
Hey, that's not bad for an average joke. You're next, Siri. Tell us a math joke.
I could tell you a joke about the number 288. But never mind, it's too gross.
Another good one. And last but not least, okay, Google, tell us a math joke.
Where do math teachers go on vacation? To Times Square.
All three of those were actually pretty funny. I'm impressed with these voice assistants.
Me too. But I think it's important to recognize that Alexa, Siri, and Google are just telling jokes that have been programmed into them, while ChatGPT actually wrote the joke that we had Fozzie tell.
That's true. But you know what? I still prefer the jokes that us good old fashioned humans tell.
Well, that's great because for this next segment, I've invited a couple of good old fashioned human guests to join us.
Oh, you did? Cool. Who's coming?
Do you remember that when we met back in college, I was part of an improv comedy show called Comedy Sports?
Of course I do. I went to a bunch of your shows. They were hilarious.
And one of the games we played was a joke telling game called 185. I thought it'd be fun to play a math themed round of that game as part of our jokes episode today.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I reached out to a couple of my old teammates from the show, and they're on their way over to help us out. Oh, that must be them now. Hey, guys.
Hi, how's it going? So, you know what? You want to introduce our guests?
Sure. First, we have Gary Kramer. Gary was one of the original co-owners of the Santa Barbara Comedy Sports team where we all met. These days, he's still in the improv business as the owner of San Diego's National Comedy Theater, which is the city's longest running comedy show. Thanks for coming, Gary.
Thank you for the invite and for allowing me to do all the math humor that I've been saving up for all these years.
Next, we have Dave Gillette. Dave was also a player on the Santa Barbara Comedy Sports team. These days, he's the computer teacher at Burlington Christian Academy in Burlington, North Carolina. And listeners might recognize Dave's voice because he played Oz the Great and Powerful in the opening sketch of our Magic Squares episode.
I need all attention to the man behind the curtain.
Thanks for joining us again, Dave.
Hey, this is a blast. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, super great to have you guys here. I loved watching you all back in the day, and I'm very excited to see what you all come up with today.
Now, before we get started, let me explain the game of 185.
Go for it.
So we're going to be improvising jokes that all follow the same basic pattern, which goes like this. 185 blanks walk into a bar. The bartender says, "I'm sorry, we don't serve blanks here." And the 185 blanks respond with a pun or a punchline. So, for example, if the blank was cows, a player might say, 185 cows walk into a bar. The bartender says, "We don't serve cows here." And the cows say, "That's okay. We'll just go to an udder bar."
Oof. Oh, man.
Yeah. And the fact that you just groaned at that reminds me to point out that we're intentionally going for bad puns and dad jokes here.
Right. And for the round we're playing today, I'll be hosting and Dave, Gary, and Noah will be competing. I chose the topics in advance, and our three competitors have no idea what they are. They're really going to have to think on their toes to come up with their punchlines. And since this is the math club, all of the topics are math related. Players, if our fake audience and I think your punchline is funny, you'll hear this sound and you'll earn a point. But if we think it falls flat, you'll hear this sound and you'll earn a big fat nothing. I'll keep track of the score, and at the end of a few rounds, I'll let you know who won. Sound good?
That sounds perfect, Pete.
Players, are you ready to play 185?
Yes.
All right, gang, here we go. Our first topic is math nerds.
Okay, 185 math nerds walk into a bar and the bartender said, "I'm sorry, we don't serve math nerds here." And the math nerds reply, "Well, that's odd."
I love it. Odd.
All right, I'll try one. 185 math nerds walk into a bar and the bartender says, "Hey, we don't serve math nerds here." And the math nerds say, "That's not cool."
So 185 math nerds, they walk up to a bar and they're very concerned. So they check to see if they can fit and says, they're occupancy 185. And the bartender says, "I'm sorry, we can't fit all of you. We can only do 184. And the math nerd says, "But it says 185. And the bartender says, "Well, 185 is the limit."
All right.
185 math nerds walk into a bar and the bartender said in a loud voice, "We don't serve math nerds here." And the math nerds got really scared and ran out the door. And the bartender said, "Yeah, I knew they were all math chicken."
You know what, Gary? before you got here, Noah and I recorded an earlier segment, and I made that same joke. So I'm giving you 2 points because great minds think alike.
So 1011101 math nerds walk up to a bar. The bartender says, "I'm sorry, we don't serve 105 math nerds." And the math nerd said, "Is that because we're off base?"
185 math nerds walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "We do not serve math nerds here." And the math nerd said, "But we're meeting our girlfriend here. She's from Canada." Canada. I gave you that one just so I could get a duck call in there.
Yeah, well, and it worked. 185 math nerds walk into a bar, and the bartender said, "I'm sorry, we don't serve math nerds here." And math nerds say, "Well, fine, we wanted to eat anyway, and we see there's no tables."
This isn't the Excel spreadsheet club. This is
Oh,
the math
all
club.
right.
Okay. Moving on. Our next topic. Let's see. Maybe I'll give you guys a little bit of a softball here. Our next topic is circles.
185 circles walk into a bar, and the bartender said, "We don't serve you." And the circle said, "Well, we already knew that." And the bartender said, "Well, why'd you know that?" And they said, "Because we're much smarter. We have 360 degrees."
All right, 185 circles. They walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "We don't serve circles here." So they all leave, but one of the waitresses runs out and says, "Hey, I can serve you if you go around back."
Love it.
185 circles walked right past a bar. Why didn't you go in? I was pointless.
185 circles. They walk into this bar, and the bartender says, "We do not serve circles here. You're not allowed to serve alcohol to circles." And the circles said, "Well, we just wanted some pie."
Smart joke. Point for Noah. All right, players, in honor of a recent episode that we did, the next topic is square roots.
185 square root of the number 2s walk up to a bar, and the bartender says, "There is no way we're letting you in here." And the square root of 2 said, "Well, now you're just being irrational."
Ooh, I love it. 185 square roots walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "We absolutely, positively do not serve square roots in here." And they said, "Hey, you can't be so negative."
All right, point for Noah.
185 square roots of -1 walk up to a bar. Bartender says, "I'm sorry, I won't serve the square root of -1. Square root of -1 said, "Not even I."
Ooh, that's a good one.
185 square roots walk into a bar, and the bartender said, "You're not allowed in here. This is a religious bar." And the square root said, "Well, we don't believe in a higher power."
Ooh, I like it. Okay, guys, here's a score update. Dave and Gary are tied for first place with 5 points each. And Noah, you're lagging way behind with 4 measly points of your own.
And preparing to take the lead.
All right, we'll see. Our next topic is 185 calculators.
185 scientific calculators walk into a bar. Bartender says, "I'm sorry, we cannot serve 185. So they hit the hex button and said, "Hey, don't worry, we're B9. Hey, Pete, why don't you check out what the hexadecimal equivalent of 185 is?
All right, so let's see. 16 goes into 185 11 times, which is B in hexadecimal. Okay, and that leaves a remainder of 9. So the answer is B9. Nice, Dave. Very clever. You know what? I'm going to take that duck call back and give you a shiny point instead.
185 scientific calculators walk into a bar, and the bartender said, "I can't serve you. You didn't pay for your last time you were here." And they said, "No problem. We brought someone here to co-sign."
185 calculators walk up to the bar and said, "We'd like to come in." And the guy looked at the reservations and said, "I don't see anything here." And they said, "Oh, no, we registered."
Sorry, Dave. A bit too much of a stretch.
185 calculators walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "We don't serve calculators here." And they said, "We're not here to drink. We're here with the band, the Texas Instruments."
And finally, just because I'd like to end on something a little bit meta and a little bit weird, for our final topic, it is 185 185s walk into a bar. Go.
185 185s walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "We don't serve 185s here. Get out of here, you square."
185 185s walk into a bar. Bartender says, "I'm sorry, we don't serve 185 185s here." So 185s, we cursed them out.
Oh, yes. That's what I was hoping for. Something just like that, Dave. All right. Dave gets the final point, and what a fantastic round this has been. You guys are awesome. Now, here's a breakdown of the final scores. Tied for second place, also known as last place, Gary and Noah come in with 6 points each. And coming in first place, the best 185 player around with a total of 7 points, Dave Gillette from North Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nice job, Dave. Well played.
Thank you.
Man, that was a lot of fun, you guys. I have not played 185 in over 20 years, and it was fun to get to play it again with you guys for old time's sake.
Thank you for having us. I haven't done that many math jokes in my whole life.
I totally agree. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much.
Hey, this was a blast. Thank you so much.
Man, it was great hanging out with those guys. I really miss doing improv with them.
Oh, I bet. Just getting to listen to the three of you playing 185 again was a real blast from the past.
Yeah. So I guess we answered the question.
We did? What question?
Are we able to do a math club joke show where all the jokes are math jokes?
Oh, right. I guess the answer is yes. We had our own jokes, our listeners' jokes, jokes from our voice assistants, and a famous Muppet Bear, and tons of 185 jokes. You know, the only joke we didn't get to finish was your joke from the beginning about the half a beer, quarter of a beer, eighth of a beer.
Oh, that was the joke I was telling?
That was the joke you were telling.
Why didn't you say so? I know that joke.
All right, then can we hear the rest?
Sure. So after the first three mathematicians walk in order and the bartender sees the line of mathematicians outside, he reaches under the bar, grabs 2 mugs and fills them and says, "You guys really need to know your limits."
All right, nice one. You know, Gary and Dave are lucky the game's over because I might have given you 3 points for that one.
Thanks. And happy second birthday to you and the rest of the math club.
Happy birthday, my friend. And thank you, Math Club, for joining us for this special anniversary joke show. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.